Hello and welcome to MacGyver's Grant Public Library Storytime Tuesday. Today we are going to celebrate all things Winnie the Pooh. Every year on January 18th, it's Winnie the Pooh Day, and that's because January 18th is the birthday of A.A. Milne, and A.A. Milne is the person who wrote the original Winnie the Pooh stories. It's pretty cool, isn't it? So today we're going to celebrate Winnie the Pooh by reading Finding Winnie, the true story of the world's most famous bear. This book was written by Lindsay Mattick. She's the author, so she wrote the words. And it's illustrated by Sophie Blackall. So she drew these wonderful pictures. And you see this right here? That's the Caldecott medal, which means that the pictures are exceptionally wonderful. Look at that great picture of that bear. This book was published by Little Brown and Company. And see these end pages? See that wonderful illustration? What do you see in the woods? I see a stream. I see a lot of trees and some bushes and some grass. I see a fox. You see a bear in there? Finding Winnie, the true story of the world's most famous bear. Could you tell me a story? It's awfully late. It was long past dark and time to be asleep. What kind of story? You know, said Cole, a true story, one about a bear. We cuddled up close. I'll do my best, I said. And there is Cole and his mama on his bed. And what is Cole holding in his hand? A bear. And what is on his wall? Look at the paintings of the trees on his wall. Isn't that beautiful? I'd like to have a room like that. A very long time ago, about 100 years before you were born, there was a veterinarian who lived in Winnipeg. His name was Harry Colburn. A vegetarian, said Cole. Bear doesn't like vegetables. A veterinarian, I said. It means an animal doctor. I know that, Cole said. That's what I'm going to be when I'm big. If a horse had the hiccups or a cow had a cough, Harry knew how to make them feel just right. Harry's hands were never cold, even in Winnipeg, where winters are so frosty that icicles grow on the inside of your nose. That was just the kind of doctor he was. And there is Harry and a horse, taking care of a horse, isn't he? When it's very cold outside. And there's a picture of Cole and his mama all cuddled up, and she's telling him this story. But a day came when Harry had to say goodbye to Winnipeg. There was a war far, far away, beyond the end of the country and on the other side of the ocean, and he was going to help. He would be caring for the soldiers' horses. Harry rode east on the train full of other soldiers. He leaned his head against the window, watching the land scroll by, wondering what it would be like to be so far from home. There he is at the train station. And there he is with his head pressed up against the window, watching the scenery. Have you ever been far away from home? The rain rolled right through dinner and over the sunset and around 10 o'clock and into a nap and out the next day until it stopped at a place called White River. Sorry, I read that wrong. Harry decided to stretch his legs at White River. Look at the train. I like those pictures, how they show the train going in and out of dinner and a nap and around 10 o'clock. And there is Harry getting off on the platform, and there is Cole and his mama reading our story. On the train platform was a man on a bench with a baby. A baby, said Cole, annoyed. A baby bear, a cub. Harry stopped. It's not every day that you see a bear cub at a train station. That bear has lost its mother, he thought, and that man must be the trapper who got her. What do trappers do? Asked Cole. It's what trappers don't do. They don't raise bears. Raise them? You know, I said. Love them. There's Harry. And there's the trapper. And do you see that baby bear under his bench? And there's Cole and his mama. Harry thought for a long time. Then he said to himself, there is something special about that bear. He felt inside his pocket and said, I shouldn't. He paced back and forth and said, I can't. And then his heart made up his mind, and he walked up to the trapper and said, I'll give you $20 for that bear. Is $20 a lot? Asked Cole. Back then, I said, it was even more than a lot. There's Harry making his decision. Oh my goodness. Have you ever paced back and forth while you were trying to make a decision? And there he's offering the man the money. There is calling his mama. Captain Colburn, said the colonel on the train as the little bear sniffed at his knees. We are on a journey of thousands of miles, heading into the thick of battle, and you propose to bring this most dangerous creature? Bear stood straight up on her hind legs, as if to salute the colonel. The colonel stopped speaking at once, and then, in a quite different voice, he said, Oh, hello. The men of Harry's regiment squeezed by to have a look. I've decided to name her Winnipeg, Harry told them, so we'll never be far from home. Winnie for short. Look at the bear. Look at the men trying to see the bear. The colonel changed his attitude, didn't he, when he saw the bear was being cute? They had a very long way to travel, and they had already gone 3 or 4 feet when Winnie grew hungry. What do bears eat? The men wondered. What don't they eat? Said Harry. Vegetables, Cole reminded me. Winnie ate vegetables, I said. She ate everything except onions. They brought her carrots and potatoes and apples and tomatoes and eggs and beans and bread and a tin of fish and some slop in a dish, but Winnie was still hungry. How about dessert? Said Harry, holding up a bottle of condensed milk. Taking the treat in her paws, Winnie lay on her back and hummed a happy song as she drank. The men roared. When you say people roared, a lot of times that means they laughed really loud. They didn't roar like a lion or a tiger. There's all the men bringing Winnie her treats. There's Cole and his mama. And there is Winnie with her sweetened condensed milk. And what is Pooh Bear's favorite? He likes sweetened condensed milk. He also likes honey, doesn't he? Harry and Winnie gathered the soldiers from all over Canada in the green fields of Valcartier. A whole city of tents had sprung up there. One was a hospital for horses, where Harry went to work. There they are, all those tents, like a city in the field. And there is the hospital tent for the horses. And there is Harry and Winnie. Looks like Harry's made a friend, doesn't it? Winnie was in the army now. Harry taught her to stand up straight and hold her head high and turn this way and that, just so. Soon she was assigned her own post. Even the colonel agreed that Winnie was a remarkable bear. She may have been the best navigator in the whole army. If you hit something, she could find it. What if it was farther and farther away and farther still? Remarkable, he cried. And there's a picture where they hid something, and there Winnie went all around all the different tents. Look at her path where she went all those different ways, and she found it. And there she is on her own pole. In the evenings, both of them were too tired to move. When Harry thought about Winnie and the voyage across the ocean, his head said, I shouldn't. His head said, I can't. But his heart made up his mind. There is Winnie and Harry both asleep. And there is Harry trying to make up his mind about whether to take Winnie across the ocean. Nobody had ever tried to float so many people and animals across the Atlantic Ocean before. 30 ships sailed together carrying about 36,000 men and about 7,500 horses and about one bear named Winnie. Look at all those boats. That is a long way from home, isn't it? Across the ocean. When they finally arrived in England, the regiment went to training on the Salisbury Plain, where it rained and it rained and it rained. but Winnie didn't seem to mind. She was the mascot of the 2nd Canadian Infantry Brigade, and she attended her post with vigor. One day, Harry came running while she was doing her exercises in the tent. "You'll bring the whole place down," he said with a laugh. She had grown. And there's his company in the rain, and the rain, and the rain. And there's Winnie, all big now, trying to be on a post. And she's bringing down the tent because she's so big. She's grown so much. It was winter when the order came. The time had come to fight. Winnie posed proudly with the men for pictures to send home to their families. Harry thought for a long time. His head argued one way and then the other, but his heart made up his mind. He went to Winnie and said in a serious way, "There's somewhere we need to go." Winnie brushed the mud off her nose and nuzzled in close. There's Harry and Winnie and his company getting their picture taken. And there is Harry having a serious talk with Winnie. Harry drove all the way to the big city. Where do you think Harry and Winnie are going? Where do you think they might go? "Here we are," said Harry, "the London Zoo." Harry took a deep breath. "Winnie, this is going to be your home for a while," he said. She tilted her head. "We're shipping out for France," he said. "I have to take care of the horses at the front." She rested her big head against him. "I know you want to come, but it's not safe." Winnie's head bowed. Harry's hands were warm as sunshine as usual. "There's something you must always remember," Harry said. "It's the most important thing, really. Even if we're apart, I'll always love you. You will always be my bear." There's Harry saying goodbye to Winnie for a little while. And there they are at the zoo. "Is that the end?" "That's the end of Harry and Winnie's story," I said. "But I don't want it to be over," said Cole. "Sometimes," I said, "you have to let one story end so the next one can begin." "How do you know when that will happen?" "You don't," I said, "which is why you should always carry on." So there is a picture of the zoo. It's the London Zoo, where that's now Winnie's home, isn't it? And there's Cole and his mother. Once upon a time, there was a little boy with a stuffed bear. He'd had his bear ever since he was a baby, but somehow the boy had never found the right name for him. He tried Teddy and Edward and even Big Bear. Oh, I showed his feet first. There is a little boy and his bear. One day, the boy went to visit the London Zoo with his father, and there was a bear, a real bear, on the terraces there. Right away, the boy thought there was something special about that bear. Her name was Winnie. They became true friends. The boy was allowed to come right up inside her enclosure to play. Once the boy had found Winnie, he knew just what to call his stuffed bear. He named it Winnie the Pooh, and the boy was called... There's the boy and his father, and there's Winnie in her pen at the zoo, and there's Cole and his mother, and Cole says, "She named it Cole?" said Cole. His name was Christopher Robin Milne. Christopher Robin would visit Winnie at the zoo, and then he would take his stuffed animal on all sorts of adventures in the wood behind his home. His father, Alexander Milne, wrote books all about them. Harry's Winnie became Winnie the Pooh, and there has never been a more beloved bear. And there is a picture of the real Christopher Robin and Winnie. And there's his dad watching him. And there's Cole and his mother. And Cole says, "But what about Harry?" When Harry visited Winnie at the zoo, he saw how happy she was. She was being raised. She was truly loved, and that was all he had ever wanted. from the moment they had met on the station at White River. So after the war, Harry returned to Winnipeg and his life as an animal doctor. Before long, he was married, and he had a son named Fred, and Fred had a daughter named Lorene, and Lorene had a daughter named Lindsay, which is me. And then I had a son. When I saw you, I thought, there is something special about this boy. So I named you after your great-great-grandfather, Captain Harry Colburn. I named you Cole. So there's Harry coming home. There's Cole and his mama. And there's the family tree. Harry had Fred, and Fred had Lorene, and Lorene had Lindsay, and Lindsay had Cole. So Cole was hearing a story about his great-grandpa. That's me, said Cole in a whisper. That's you, said. And that's Winnie? Yes, I said, that's Winnie. And it's all true? Some of the best stories are, I said. Cole's eyes grew big, and he said nothing for a long time, and then he hugged his own bear close and let out a yawn that reached far away, and they both turned over and fell asleep. And then she has an album, which is like a picture album of the real Harry. That is a picture of the real Harry Colburn. And then there's his diaries. He kept his diaries. And right here on the 24th of August, it says, bought a bear for $20. Isn't that cool? And then here are the pictures of Harry and Winnie and the company. And this picture of Harry and Winnie that they made into a statue, and they put one in Winnipeg, and then they made another just like it, and they put it in London. And this is a story of the real Winnie and the real Christopher Robin. And this is some information on Winnie at the zoo, when she came in and when she went out, what kind of a bear she was. And this is a picture of Lindsay, who wrote the book, and Cole when he was a baby. And that is the end of that book. Don't you love that book? Isn't it wonderful to know that Winnie the Pooh has a true story, has a story behind the story. I love this book. Happy Winnie the Pooh Day. We'll see you next week.